Okay, I'm back again. This will be part 3. I know I'm going to lose count on this, but I want to tell you, give you some details, and, and here's Yuki again. Yuki ukulele, that's what I tell her. There you go. I just wanted to make sure that the microphone is picking this up. Okay, so where I left off, the angel was standing there. He wanted me to go with him, and I knew I was in trouble, and I knew that there wasn't anything that I could do about anything at this point. I couldn't go back into my body. I couldn't stay there. And it was just the next progression that I had to do. So, come here, baby. I just love this cat so much. She's so sweet. Anyway, hi. Okay. Yeah. You're getting all the attention, aren't you, boo? Yeah. So, I said to the angel, look, I'm not supposed to go anywhere with strangers. So, what's your name? And he looked at me and he goes, oh, okay. He said a very long name. It was like Luciferus or Lucish. It was just it started with an L, Lauricius, or I don't know. And I was given this like pad with a pen. And right when I was about to write it down, the strangest thing happened. Is like I saw his history in his name. I know that sounds so weird, but I believe that names have a lot of value, and they mean a lot. So when I saw that, I saw battles and weird, all sorts of different periods, times in history. I mean, going way, way back. I mean, like probably even before this Earth age, because we're in the second Earth age. So it was just very bizarre. And I said, look, I can't say your name. I can't pronounce your name. Can I call you Lurch? And he looked at me. I said, do you know who Lurch is? And he said, no. I said, do you know this show called The Addams Family? And he said, no. I said, do you know what television is? He said, he was very puzzled. So I said, well, he is this guy, and he's a butler, but he's very, very tall and kind of a monster, but you're not a monster. His name is Lurch, and your names are kind of alike in a weird sort of way. So, can I call you Lurch? Because it would just work for me. And he said, yeah. So I said, okay. And then I said, before we leave, can I go over and talk to my sister? And he said, yeah, but we need to hurry and get going. And I said, okay. So I walked over there. Her angel was so different than mine. And I didn't understand why, but later on I would. Her angel was about as tall as we were. And the weird thing about it is it just kept changing. So it's like a shapeshifter. And my sister's like, do you want to trade angels? And I'm like, no. Seriously, your angel makes me dizzy and sick even to like watch him because this motion and anyway, so I said maybe, let's see what happens. And so she said, okay. The last I saw of him in that moment was he was like a traveler going down a road, like a graveled road, and there's like forks in the road. Thinking about it now sounds very prophetic. Anyway, he had a backpack on. So that was very strange. And then I walked back to Lurch and I said, okay, I'm ready. And he said, okay. So he said, follow me. We went to the corner wall of our room. And he said, all right, I need you to hang on to me. Like, just grab me around my waist. And I'm like, I don't know if I can. And he knew what I was thinking. Like, from all the sexual abuse and everything, he was like, I'm not going to hurt you. Okay? So I kind of paused for a while and then I'm like, okay. And I just trusted him because I looked up and I saw the rainbow around his head and his gold blonde hair, and he was just beautiful. And I didn't have any bad vibes from him whatsoever. So I trusted him, and I put my arms around him as tight as I could. He said, now hang on as tight as you can because we're going to go really, really fast. And I said, okay. The room got really dark again because something happened to the lamp wherever that went. Down at my feet, I heard this whoo, 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 whoo. And it went faster and faster and faster. I'm like, what is that? And all of a sudden, the ceiling opened up, and it was just like there was nothing there. And boom, we shot up, and we were going really, really fast. And we went into like a tunnel, and we were going really fast. There was just like shots of light and weird colors, and I was really frightened. And I looked over at my sister, and she's having the time of her life. Like, this is the best ride she's ever been on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we need to stop. And so I'm like yelling to Lurch, stop. You got to stop. I can't hang on anymore. And he said, okay, you can just for a moment. So we all stopped, and my sister said, she's such a fraidy cat. And I'm like, ah. And I looked around, and it was kind of a misty, weird gray that we stopped in. And there were lights out there, like lamps, like people out there. And I asked if we could go out there, and he said, yeah, but don't go too far out there. And I said, okay. So we went out there, and there were people out there, like moaning and crying, and that is part of hell, what people call if they don't make it to the good side. And my sister was very intrigued with it, but we had to go. The angel called us back, and so this time it was a little bit easier, so I held on really tight. We went through really super, super fast. And then there's a door with like a curtain over it. And we slowed down, and then we entered through. And right when we stepped in, it was like very beautiful, lush, green grass and trees and flowers and a path that you would walk on. And Lurch said, you know, you need to stay on the path. So I said, okay. So we're walking on the path, and I saw this really very beautiful little tiny blue flower. And it was off the path, but I just had to go see it. And so I thought, oh, just for a moment. So I stepped off, and right when I stepped on the grass, I felt the grass beneath me like it was alive. And I looked out across all this area with just green, lush grass, and it was all singing praises to God and singing. And then I looked at the trees, and the trees were singing. And then I figured, well, I'm almost there to the little flowers, so I'm going to just go to the flowers. So I looked at the flower. The flower was singing, and it was just amazing. Everything praises God, even the grass and the little flowers. So I was just so amazed with that. And I came back to the path, and we started walking again. And there was an area to the left, and it had a little crevasse, and it had a little water brook running down through it like a stream. And we started walking up like this mound, and there were like oak trees that were on the left, and then down below was the little brook, and out way beyond were like these rolling hills and mountains and beautiful flowers, and just it was so amazing. But we stopped, and I asked, can I go down and look in the water? And he's like, before he could even answer, I just shot off. And when I was running, it was like I was running at that time through like wheat, and it was like up to here on me, and I was running, and then I would jump, and it was like floating and jumping at the same time, but it was like I definitely took off. It's like, and it was just a lot of fun. And I finally got down to the water, and I was looking in it, and then my sister came running down because she asked her angel, and he said yeah, and they're both looking at me like, looking at her like, well, your sister went even without, you know. So she was down there looking in the water with me, and I'm like looking for like pollywogs and little fish and salamander, and there was nothing in it. It was just clear, crystal clear water. It was beautiful. And then I heard some voices, and it was to my left. I looked, and there were these two children, a boy and a girl. And I started talking to them, and they said that they were going to have to go back, and I was adamant where I did not want to go back. I already liked what I saw, and so I said, I'm not going back, you know. They were dressed in regular clothes. They didn't have white robes on like me and my sister had. And they said that they were in a hospital, and then I saw it was like I saw Like it was a similitude of what I saw in front of me, where it was like I was even looking down at them in the hospital bed, and I saw, it's very hard to explain, but seeing what happened as if I were there. Anyway, they were on a sled and they were going down a hill in a park, and they hit a park bench, and they had brain injuries from it. So they were in a coma in the hospital, getting better. Their parents were around and family, and I saw that they would have kind of a tough life, and they already kind of did, kind of like us, like me and my sister. So I'll turn that back up. So it was really sad, and Lurch called to us and said it's time to go. So we said goodbye, and we went back up, and I wanted to keep walking, going up into the mountains and seeing all that, but he said, no, we need to hurry this up. We don't have a lot of time, so but we need to keep going back down into the garden, and you're going to talk to someone there. And I'm like, okay, well. And then he says to us, if you could have anything in the world, what would it have? What would you want? And I thought about my whole life experience at that point, and how evil money is, and how it changes people and makes them do things that are evil. It just, if you can't handle money, you shouldn't have money. Anyway, I told Lurch, well, I want to have a cowboy hat and a vest. And he said, okay, and I was describing everything that I wanted on it. Oh, sorry. And then my sister said, oh, I want the vest. And so we put it on. I was wearing my hat, and I was willing to share my vest. And then she says, I want money. And she said, I want a lot of money. And he's like, okay. So he goes, okay, we're going into the garden now. So you need to give back your stuff. He kind of told us what we were going to be doing, talking to him, and then kind of what else was coming. And I said, I don't want to go. Can you come with us? And he said, no, you got to go alone. And I'm like, dang it. So I gave him back my cowboy hat. She gave back the vest, and we were walking down, and Candy and I held hands, and I just was like, we can do this. And I think it's getting to that time, so I'm going to wait. I think I can do a couple more minutes here. So anyway, we walked up, and it was in a garden, and I saw this man standing there. He had like shoulder length, like brown blonde hair. He had a very thick robe on, and not like my little tiny thin one. His was real thick, and he had a beard, and um, I was just afraid, again, because of all the abuse and stuff. He said, I'm not going to hurt you. And I said, who are you? And he said, I'm Jesus. And later, he would tell me that he doesn't like to be called Jesus. He likes his name, Yeshua. And that's why I always say Yeshua. But if I'm talking to the general public, I'll say Jesus because it's more acceptable. But I just thought I'd add that. Anyway, he said, look, I want to show you something so that when you do go back, you'll know that you were with me and that this is real. And I said, okay. And he lifted up his arm and pulled back his sleeve, and he showed a mark. It was like a hole and a hole here. And the hole looked really weird. It was a definite hole, but it looked like, the portals I was telling you about? It looked like that type of energy. It was so weird. And then he pulled up his robe and showed his legs, and they were all scarred up. And just, they kind of mutilated him. And those people who did this, the Kenites, our enemies, did this to our Lord and Savior. And then he took off the top of his robe, and then he's just like, look, I am not going to hurt you. Because I was just afraid. I had trust issues. And he said, I'm going to confirm to you, because you don't know this, but I was struck through the side. And so he showed his side where it was, he got stabbed through. And he put back his shirt and he said, okay, we have to talk, but one at a time. And so, yeah, we're running to the end again. I'm going to have to start again in the next video. But this will be like a life review, and it'll go on to some very other interesting things. Okay.